Hey guys, it's Brett from Brooklyn Craft Company and I want to teach you how to knit. So in this video series, I'm teaching you all the basic steps of knitting. In the last video, we learned how to cast on, which is this. Casting on is how you get your yarn attached to your needle so that you can actually start knitting. So once you've cast on, it's time to knit. So in this video, I'm going to teach you the basic knit stitch. Let's get started. So now that we've cast on, we're going to learn how to knit. We're going to do the basic knit stitch. So here we have our stitches that we cast on, and we learned how to do that in the previous video. And now it's time to knit. So we're going to take our needle with the cast on stitches, hold it in our left hand. And now there's two strands of yarn coming off of this. One was our tail that we were casting on with, and one is the yarn that's actually connected to our ball of yarn. We want to make sure we start knitting with the yarn from the ball, not our little tail, because the tail won't get us very far. And in fact, you can just go ahead and cut that to about 6 inches long so that it doesn't confuse you too much. Then you pick up your empty needle in your right hand. You're going to slide these stitches pretty close to the tip of your needle. You don't want to try to work with them all the way back here because that would be too difficult. You want to get pretty close to the tip here. And we're holding the needle with the stitches in our left hand, the empty needle in our right hand. You're going to insert the tip of your right needle through the front of the first loop, cross the needles in the back, pick up your yarn, wrap it around the back of the back needle, pull it through to the front, and then slip that stitch off the left needle, and it now lives on the right needle. And tighten your yarn. And you've now got one stitch on your right needle. You can give that one a good tug because the very first stitch of the row always wants to be a little bit loose. Okay, so let's talk about how we're holding everything in our hands because that's really hard for beginners. We're holding the needles, kind of, you can see they're sort of resting on my fingers with my thumbs on the top. And the way I'm holding the yarn is it's going around my pinky and up over my pointer. And that allows the yarn to kind of slide as I work, but it allows me to control it so that I have enough tension on it. You don't really need to worry about that when you're learning. It's fine if you drop the yarn and hold it with your hand and then drop it again, but as you get better at knitting, you're gonna wanna start controlling the yarn a little bit more. So just something to think about as you're learning. Okay, let's see that stitch again. Now we're gonna take our right hand needle, we're gonna insert it through the front of the next stitch on the left hand needle. The needles will be crossed. We're gonna take our yarn, wrap it around the back and in between the two needles, and then pull that right hand needle through to the front and slip that stitch off the left hand needle so it's now on the right hand needle. As you work, you're going to always have to scooch your stitches up a little bit so that they're always close to the tip of the needle. So again, we're going to insert through the first loop, wrap the yarn around the back and in between the two needles, and then pull that right hand needle through to the front and slip the stitch off. Again, insert the needle through the front of the loop, wrap the yarn around the back and in between the two needles, pull the right hand needle through to the front and slip the stitch off the left needle, and it now lives on the right. So I'll just do this a few times so you can watch it in action. We'll just keep repeating that same stitch all the way across. Let me talk you through it again. You're going to insert your right needle through the first loop on the left needle, cross the needles in the back, wrap the yarn all the way around the back and in between the two needles, and then pull that right needle through to the front and slip off the stitch. Okay, here we are on the last stitch of the row. Just be sure it doesn't accidentally fall off your needle because it'll be kind of loose, but we'll knit it the same way we've been knitting all the other ones. Okay, so we've completed one row. Now what? All the stitches are on this needle. You see the working yarn is now over here on the left side. We're just going to turn this, and it now is going to live in our left hand, and the working yarn is now where it needs to be, right up here at the tip of the needle so that we can knit another row. We're going to do these just like we did before. We're going to insert the needle through the front of the first loop, wrap around the back and in between, pull that right needle through to the front and slip the stitch off. Always remember on your first stitch of the row, give it a little extra tug because those first stitches always want to get a little bit loose and baggy. So again, we're going to insert the needle into the front of the loop, wrap the yarn around the back and in between, pull the needle through to the front, and slip the stitch off the left-hand needle. And we're already coming to the end of the row again. So again, once we knit all of the stitches off of the left-hand needle, you usually have to kind of give things a little tug to make sure it's not getting twisted or out of shape, and then you just turn it around and you're ready to knit the next row. Okay, now we've got a few rows done, so we can take a look at what the knit stitch looks like once you knit for a while. And you can see it creates a fabric that has a really nice nubby texture. You see these little kind of round bumps on the front and the back. When you knit every stitch like this, it's called garter stitch. That's what the stitch pattern is. Garter stitch just means you knit every stitch on the front and back. Garter stitch is like the most basic, kind of easiest first thing you can knit. And it's actually a wonderful fabric for scarves and blankets because it lays really flat. It doesn't curl on the edges at all. And it's reversible. It looks the same on the front and back. So it's actually a really great fabric just on its own. If you are just learning and you want to knit every single stitch, go for it because it looks great. You could just keep on going and make a scarf and it would be fantastic. If you want to start switching it up, you can change the appearance of your knitting by incorporating some purl stitches. And when you combine knit and purl, you can get all kinds of effects. So in the next video, we're going to learn how to purl and we can see what that does to our project.